This year's 11th super typhoon Yagi made landfall on September 6 in Wenchang City, Hainan, and Xuwen County, Guangdong. It caused significant damage, with many houses collapsing or being destroyed. Trees were uprooted, and power and communication services were disrupted, leading to heavy losses for residents. Many locals recorded scenes of the aftermath, showing widespread devastation. On September 7th, after the typhoon, the city of Haikou was heavily impacted. Videos showed numerous trees being uprooted, and vehicles were damaged by fallen trees, with almost no cars left unscathed. Countless houses, greenhouses, and crops were destroyed, and power outages occurred in many areas, leaving most roads impassable. In one shocking incident, a high-rise apartment building in Haikou's Xuwen complex was tilted by the typhoon, and is now deemed unsafe. Viewers expressed disbelief, wondering if the building was poorly constructed. A north-facing side of a 20-story residential building had all its windows shattered, starting from the second floor. A large wind turbine was blown over, likely resulting in losses of over $1 million. A large truck was also overturned by the wind, but fortunately, the driver was not injured. In Haikou, the typhoon left streets littered with fallen trees and debris. Cars were overturned, and a security guard booth was blown down. Many rooftops were torn off, windows and doors were shattered, and even a large advertising screen on a building's exterior disappeared. After the storm, people came out to check their cars. In one instance, a tree fell on a car, crushing it. But amazingly, a young woman crawled out of the wreckage unharmed. A famous Haikou restaurant called Sky Mirror was completely flooded by seawater and torn apart by the typhoon.
The Sky Mirror at Poly Central Coast has been completely destroyed. The entire road is ruined, and the protective fence along the coastline has been blown away. There's not a single railing left. The whole foundation looks like this now. What was once a popular spot on social media is now in this state. Everything has been destroyed.
The Sky Mirror restaurant, which offered a 360-degree sea view, attracted countless visitors before being destroyed by the typhoon. In the footage, you can see that the glass walls of the restaurant have shattered completely, with tables, chairs, and various items scattered everywhere. Even the cement ground outside the restaurant was torn up by the typhoon, leaving debris, cement blocks, and large stones from the sea all over the place. Many people lamented, "The Sky Mirror has turned into the Ruins Mirror." Others joked, "The owner must be crying in the bathroom by now." Another video shows the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Haikou, which was severely damaged by the typhoon. The once beautiful exterior has been stripped away, leaving it unrecognizable. An elevator in a 9-story residential building was also ripped apart by the typhoon, leaving only an empty shell. Locals said that they hadn't seen such a terrifying storm in decades. Over half the windows of a high-rise building were blown away, and residents reported no signal, water, or power, suffering heavy losses. Haikou's Wuyuan River Stadium, a large sports venue, was also heavily damaged. Its roof was torn off, allowing rainwater to flood the interior. The floors were ruined, glass doors and windows shattered, and facilities like the indoor ping-pong hall, gym, and baseball field in the South Plaza were all seriously damaged. According to a report from BJ News, residents of the Poly Central Coast community in Haikou said many balconies were blown away by the storm. All the north-facing windows in the complex were blown out. Around 6 p.m. on September 6th, the winds picked up, and the window frame in my house under the force, making it impossible to close the windows. We were too scared to stand near them because we were afraid of getting sucked out or having the windows fall on us. When the living room windows couldn't hold any longer, I went to the basement to hide. Ms. Wong said that by the early morning of the 7th, the wind had weakened slightly. When she returned home, she found the windows blown away and the interior in chaos. Many trees and windows in the community were also blown down, and the maintenance staff is currently clearing the roads. According to a report by The Cover, on September 7th in Xuwen County, Zhanjiang, the second floor of a car dealership was blown away by the strong winds, leaving only a few pillars standing, with all the windows and doors shattered. The owner said they had prepared for the storm, but it was still too much to handle. Red Star News reported that on September 6th, some high-rise apartments in Hainan had their floor-to-ceiling windows completely blown away, as if they had been opened like a can. In one high-rise apartment in Haikou's Mission Hills community, the bedroom windows were blown away, and strong winds flooded the room. The owner was trapped with her leg caught in the door. The property manager of the community stated that the resident on the 22nd floor faced strong winds when her floor-to-ceiling windows were blown out. As she opened the bedroom door to escape, the powerful wind pressure slammed the door shut, trapping her leg. She was later rescued and taken to the hospital for treatment. On the morning of September 7th, Mr. Yang from Longhua District, Haikou, told Jimu News that around 4 p.m. on the 6th, he noticed the wind intensifying and saw a tree in the community being uprooted. By 9 p.m., the wind reached its peak, causing the windows to shake violently, and the power went out in the neighborhood. After about an hour of calm, the super typhoon hit again and lasted until after 4 a.m., when the wind finally began to weaken. Mr. Yang mentioned that the apartment above him was unoccupied, and the windows hadn't been installed, so rainwater entered the unit. His ceiling started leaking, and within 30 minutes, he had filled a bucket with water. He spent the entire night catching water from the leaks. At Mr. Yang's workplace, 90% of the trees were blown down, the warehouse door was broken, and the goods inside were soaked. On the 7th, while walking down the street, he saw many trees fallen and store signs scattered all over the ground. He described the scene on social media, saying the areas hit by the typhoon were in total devastation. After the typhoon, crops were also heavily damaged, resulting in severe losses for farmers. One farmer showed the damage to his farm.
The typhoon last night blew out the window glass and broke the door lock. I didn't sleep at all. Look at this door. I used a wooden pole, a mop, and 2 stools to prop it shut. Now that the wind has stopped, let's go outside and see. Wow, everything is gone. The branches are all broken, and the whole farm is like this. Look at these large trees. Many have fallen. Even those still standing have lost all their leaves. These huge trees have been uprooted. Many houses are like this, with roof tiles blown away. Fortunately, the silkworms weren't affected much, though the mulberry leaves were damaged. This wall here has collapsed. Look at the crops here. The pineapples are okay, but many leaves have broken. The sugarcane, however, is gone, all fallen. The wax apples are also gone. The trees are broken. The power poles were snapped, and even the ones still standing are crooked. This house over here has been tilted by the wind. The banana plantation is a total loss. This typhoon was just too much.
Some local residents commented online, "Everything is gone. The crops and houses are gone. The people of Hainan are really suffering right now. Many roads are blocked, and all the car windows parked on the roadside are shattered, and the houses have no water or electricity. There's no power, no internet, no signal. The island is a mess, with uprooted trees, metal sheets, broken glass everywhere, and cars overturned and damaged. The villages are flooded." Wenchang City, famous for its chicken, was also hit hard. Videos taken on the afternoon of September 6 showed heavy rain and many trees blown down by the strong winds. At around 5 p.m. on September 6, the manager of a Wenchang chicken farm reported that strong winds had severely damaged the farm's facilities, killing many chickens. Another manager at a chicken farm in Xuwen Town said that the roof of his farm was blown off by the strong winds. He had already left the farm and was taking shelter in a hotel in Wenchang City, saying that he had no time to worry about the chicken's fate. According to Weather Network reports, Typhoon Yagi maintained its status as a super typhoon for 65 hours from September 4th at 11 p.m. to September 7th at 4 p.m. It strengthened 3 times near the coast and made landfall 3 times as a super typhoon in Wenchang, Hainan, Xuwen, Guangdong, and along the coast of Vietnam. After entering the Beibu Gulf at noon on September 7th, it actually intensified, with maximum wind speeds near the center reaching level 17. 60 meters per second. Yagi set several records. It was the strongest autumn typhoon to hit China since 1949. It was the strongest in wind force, the longest duration of level 12 winds, the highest rainfall, and affected the largest population. It also became the strongest typhoon ever recorded to make landfall in Vietnam. A widely circulated video shows a van in Hainan being lifted and tossed several times by the strong winds before crashing to the ground, demonstrating the sheer force of the typhoon. Typhoon Yagi is the most powerful storm to hit Hainan since Typhoon Ramasan in 2014. Ramazan caused 88 deaths and over 44 billion yuan, $6.25 billion in economic losses across Hainan, Guangdong, Guangxi, and Yunnan. When Yagi made landfall in Wenchang, its maximum wind speed of 62 meters per second was close to Ramazan's 70 meters per second. On September 6, the Haikou Meteorological Observatory shared a satellite image of Typhoon Yagi, which some netizens noted resembled a skull. Many commented on how terrifying it looked, comparing it to the Grim Reaper. The destruction caused by Yagi was indeed as terrifying as the satellite image suggested. By September 7th at noon, official reports indicated that nearly 1.2 million people across Hainan, Guangdong, and Guangxi had been affected by the typhoon, with 3 people confirmed dead and 95 injured. However, the official casualty numbers were met with skepticism by some netizens. Comments included, "Where did the figure of 95 injuries come from? Does it include me? And I saw at least 2 people blown away by the wind, and yet only 3 deaths were reported?" A netizen from Guangxi mentioned that 2 deaths had occurred locally. "I just went to the 4th People's Hospital, and the nurses were talking about 2 people who had fallen from their balconies last night after their balconies were blown away." On September 7th, the Hainan Provincial Typhoon Defense Emergency Command held a press conference, reporting that the scale of the destruction was beyond imagination. Wenchang, where Yagi made landfall, saw all 17 towns severely impacted, with massive damage to infrastructure. As of 5 p.m. on September 7th, preliminary statistics showed that over 25,000 houses in Wenchang were damaged, nearly 1/3 of roads were blocked by fallen trees, and 139 power lines had been cut. Over 792 communication towers were damaged, causing a power outage rate of 82.3%. 8 out of 11 water plants were shut down due to power loss. 270,000 acres of crops were affected, with 160,000 acres completely destroyed. And 46% of forested areas were damaged. Direct economic losses were estimated at 32.7 billion yuan. In Haikou, over 1.26 million people were affected, with 105,500 evacuated, 209,800 in need of assistance, and 1 death reported. The storm collapsed 401 houses and damaged over 32,000. More than 167,800 trees were uprooted, and 56,742 hectares of crops were damaged, leading to direct economic losses of around 26 billion yuan. The Haikou Flood Control, Typhoon, and Drought Control Command reported that most roads were blocked by fallen trees, but 12 urban roads were cleared by 8 a.m. on the 7th. Haikou Water Supply Group announced that 4 water plants had restored power, and nearly 2/3 of residential areas had resumed water supply. After sweeping through Hainan, Guangdong, and Guangxi, Typhoon Yagi made landfall in northern Vietnam and Quang Ninh provinces on September 7th, with wind speeds exceeding 149 kilometers per hour. The storm resulted in at least 4 deaths and the disappearance of several others, believed to be fishermen. Thousands of trees were uprooted, boats were swept into the sea, and many homes lost their roofs due to the powerful winds. Streets were littered with fallen trees, metal roofing, and damaged signs. Meteorologists pointed out a few key characteristics of Typhoon Yagi that contributed to the massive destruction. 1. Extremely strong intensity. Yagi reached a wind force of over level 17 and made landfall at its peak strength. Since the wind scale tops out at level 17, wind power was off the charts. 2. Huge wind field. Satellite images showed Yagi had an incredibly well-structured and vast cloud system, filling almost the entire South China Sea. On September 6, as Yagi approached Hainan, its rain bands extended to affect the Pearl River Delta and eastern Guangdong, triggering heavy downpours and even extreme rainfall over an area approximately 600 kilometers. 3. Unusually long-lasting. Yagi formed on the night of September 1st, intensified to a super typhoon by 11 p.m. on September 4th, and maintained this terrifying strength for more than 2 days. After entering the Beibu Gulf, it continued to develop and made a rare 3rd landfall in Vietnam as a super typhoon. 4. Eye wall replacement cycle. This phenomenon occurs only in very strong typhoons. The eye wall, the most powerful part of the typhoon surrounding the eye, can be replaced by a new, larger eye wall forming around it. If successful, this process leads to the typhoon growing stronger, as was the case with Yagi. Yagi completed 2 such cycles on September 5th and 6th, rapidly increasing in intensity. Experts also attributed Yagi's power to the unusually high sea temperatures, which fueled its growth. Normally, sea surface temperatures need to be at least 26.5 degrees Celsius and maintain this warmth to a depth of about 50 meters to support a tropical cyclone. After a long summer, the northern South China Sea's water temperature reached 30 to 31 degrees Celsius. When Yagi entered the South China Sea on September 3rd, it absorbed vast amounts of energy, leading to its record-breaking strength.